like smooth. What? Can you teach me how to Dougie? You know why? Cause all the bitches love me. All I need is a big.
Well, hello and welcome to the Psychedelic Diaries. I am your host, Ray Krishnan. Do we have a good show for you today? Brooke Burgstahler will be joining us shortly for a deep dive and a soul search. As usual, we'll start the show with a nugget and a noodle. And if you like psychedelics, please subscribe, or at least just kind of hover over the button for a second and pretend you're going to. Producer Kevin is here, and let's get started with the nugget and the noodle. And today's news nugget is celebrities endorsing psychedelics. Elon Musk, Will Smith, Jada, his son. We have Dave Chappelle, Chris Martin from Coldplay, Jordan Peterson, not to mention some of the old heads that have referred psychedelics and endorsed it, like Steve Jobs, the Beatles, or even Jack Kornfield. Now, this psychedelic renaissance will, of course, need legislation, but we also need to win the court of public opinion. Bravo to all of you that are declaring support for psychedelics. And as for the noodle, something I've been noodling on of late is 420 for magic mushrooms. Something like a magic mushroom microdose national holiday, perhaps. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of every cause needing a national holiday like National Mayonnaise Day, for instance. And yet, how cool would it be to have many people across the globe microdosing, macrodosing, a full day of clarity, creativity, and calm? Something to noodle on. Ladies and gentlemen, if I may direct your attention to the left side of your screen, she is the host of the Budding Minds podcast, also the host of my favorite all-time lesson online, How to Grow Magic Mushrooms. Brooke Burgstahler, thank you for joining the show.
Well, aloha, Ray. Thank you so much for having me. You know, you were just talking about a really great idea that I'm about to wet your noodle with. There is a magic mushroom holiday. It's the day after my birthday. It's September 20th.
No kidding.
Yeah, I highly doubt that that's a very official government recognized holiday. I think the community is lightly toying around with, a day of reverence, exactly what you were talking about. And then there's also a mushroom day that's like for the other mushrooms, like the shiitakes and the creminis of the world. That's sometime in October, which is, every mushroom gets their day.
Brooke Burgstahler coming in hot, dropping knowledge. Look at that. I appreciate that. Okay, Brooke, well, thank you for that little nugget. Let's dive right in. I gotta say, I first saw you in the How to Grow Mushrooms course on Double Blind. You were charming, you were funny, you were engaging. Bravo on that. And I'm curious for you, Brooke, what was the thought process as you decided, yes, I'm going to take a part in teaching people how to grow magic mushrooms?
Well, I was so fortunate. I come from the cannabis space, and that's where I had met one of the co-founders of Double Blind, who puts on the series, Madison Margolin. And so when her and her partners approached me with being a part of this series, I was obviously humbled. I was delighted to be somewhat of a face of endorsing psilocybin mushrooms. And, involved in anything creatively in this particular arena is very exciting. At the time, I think there's been a lot more psychedelic content, a lot more people coming out of the closet, if you will, since then. But we created that series 2 or 3 years ago. So it was still, there was more of an infancy phase to the whole movement and more of a taking a chance, like,
yes,
hope I don't get in trouble for slapping my face on something like this. But it was so beautifully crafted, and I really appreciate the way that they strung everything together and presented the information in an engaging and entertaining way. But the foundational elements were like very grounded, very educational, and big kudos working with Ophelia Chung, who was really the mastermind behind the program itself. Was a very exciting thing to learn from her. She is an absolute mushroom mama. She's a total wizard. So I was learning myself through the creation of this series. But ultimately, I think being a part of anything where you are encouraging people to do their own homework, to do their own investigations, to enter through their own process, and to grow their own medicine is like, that's a huge win for everyone, whether it be cannabis. I've made grow your own cannabis content, now grow your own mushroom content. I'm a huge advocate, especially as these things become more and more commercialized and are available in stores. I'm a huge advocate for the gentle reminders or the very, heavy hands, letting people know you don't have to buy it from a store. You can grow your own. It's not too hard. It's actually, well, it is hard. It's really, really hard, but it's worth it. It's worth the experience, and it's worth the struggle, and it's worth the challenge to end up with tiny baby fungi that you have channeled your own energy and wisdom and messages to receive that medicine from your own self. Very cool. Very full circle.
Yes. Well, thank you. I've actually started talking about my experience more and more lately, but 2 or 3 years ago, you were really trailblazing. So thank you for being the tip of the spear, putting your name out there and helping. And when I saw that course, I was like, wow, holy shit, this is happening. And I bought it. And you're right. It's a non-trivial amount of work, but once you get it up and running, then there's all these flushes and you end up having a little bit more than you anticipated in all likelihood. So thank you for that. And
thank you.
I appreciate what you're doing on the cannabis side. I am a lover of cannabis as well. And you have your Budding Minds brand and of course the podcast. Congrats on the launch. Brooke, you are a great host. Also, I'm a little bit of a designer and your logo is just mwah. And I want to ask you, what has surprised you about launching and hosting a podcast?
There's a lot more work involved in podcasting than just talking into the ethers, particularly on like the post-production and editing, so that you can give a quality product to your listeners where they're always learning from something. You're not just chirping at them. And so that has been a very humbling lesson for me. Creating your own podcast, for everyone listening out there, go ahead and do it. It's something that you can do from the comfort of your own home. You can figure it out through YouTube. But it created the art of the interview is a very special gift, and it's definitely forced me to become a better listener, to maintain more presence when running interviews with people, to try to find those golden nuggets to really make other people shine. So there's like a lot of beautiful social skills that are kind of born out of having a podcast. And beyond that, from a professional standpoint, it's a very exciting networking tool.
Well put. And I appreciate your concept of the art of the interview, because there's a little bit of black magic and voodoo and little fairy dust and Salt Bay you got to sprinkle in there to make it work. It's not easy. And the post-production, if you let yourself get caught up in it, there's an infinity of work in there, which is just, it can be tough. But to your point, the good podcast, which I think you guys are one of them, and we're trying to be, they put a little thought into that. It's not just two people getting on there and yapping away. And speaking of which, one more question about your podcast, perhaps a little bit of a sign of synchronicity. I watched your most recent one when I was researching for our interview, and you had Adam Bramlage, who's coming on this show in a week. And so I thought that was kind of a fun sign of coincidence. But you said something that I loved. You were at that time on the show microdosing on psilocybin, and you're specifically doing 0.1 grams, which is exactly the amount I do. And so perhaps the difficult question, Brooke, but what does it feel like for you when you're microdosing?
Well, yeah, Adam was a really great guide for me in embarking on that journey. I was doing the Stamets method. So for 30 days, I was 5 days on, 2 days off. And, at first when I've only taken psilocybin to like feel something, either be hit with the big wave or ride the little waves. But either way, usually my experiences, my relationship with mushrooms until then had been the intention to kind of blast off somewhere. So taking a microdose, I was a little bit wary. I wasn't sure the first day, like, is 0.1 or is it gonna have more of an effect on me? I was really shocked, and I'd be curious to know if this was your experience. My first 4 or 5 days felt like I was taking Adderall for the first time each day. I was zippy. I was wired as all hell. And I already kind of inherently am like a tizzy of a person. So I didn't feel anxious. It wasn't like that. It was like, I don't go for runs. And I was like, I got to go run around my block a couple of times. I had so much energy, which is very exciting. No coffee. And normally I use cannabis to ground from when I do feel like I tried not to engage with cannabis during that time, just to really like feel the meat of it.
Mm.
But I didn't necessarily go into, and I was only on a month-long program, so I didn't necessarily go in with like brain trauma or looking to heal a specific aspect of my brain's function or a particular emotional hurdle. I was just going into it looking for a mood enhancing, life elevating experience, and I would say that is definitely what I got. It became more subtle, however, after the first 5 days. It was like more of like this undercurrent of, and I think that's where like the human consciousness, my consciousness came into play there, where it was like, maybe I'm not necessarily feeling anything, but the ritual around it's morning time, this is my little vitamin, and I'm taking it with the mindset of this is something that will better me. However, I don't know, but just having that like moment of intention and connection to the actual capsule before it went in my system, I think was a beautiful part of the whole picture there. How was yours microdosing situation?
Yeah, what a great description. Thank you for that. I totally agree. It's almost like it's like in the morning, let's say in the morning you get 3 straight pieces of good news, and all of a sudden it kind of kicks you into this, oh, I'm in a flow state. I just feel good. I feel like I'm unstoppable. And that's how I felt. I've never done the Stamets protocol. I've done the Fadiman for a while, and where it's 1 day on, 2 days off. And I think there's something to that personally, because you do build up this tolerance. And after a while, I stopped feeling it. It's almost like when you get so close to the metal, there's no more that it can clean out for me, it has felt like, which is why like I did once a month large sessions. And after a while, after years, it felt like, okay, we've already gotten down to the metal. We've cleaned every nook and cranny. There's not much more to do, but I'm with you. It's like, it's clear-headed, it's energetic, a little bit of a touch, just a dash of goofiness in the day when I'm on it, which, you know, I'm not mad at it. But sometimes if you got like a hard-hitting meeting or negotiation, goofiness ain't the thing. But for me, it's a couple times a week. It's a good day. It's like they say, sub-perceptual. And I like how you said it's an undercurrent of just feeling kind of good.
Did you microdose today?
I did it yesterday on the podcast. I wanted to be able to have that, but it would have messed up the protocol. But anyways, I'm feeling the glow, feeling the flow, the circle,
the afterglow,
yeah. Well, speaking of feeling it, I'm curious. You and I are both lovers of psilocybin and cannabis, and let's kind of wave a magic wand. Let's imagine, Brooke, that cannabis and magic mushrooms both get widespread legalization, and maybe even then go 5-10 years in the future. What do you think that world looks like?
There's 2 sides of the equation, which is obviously I desire, and I think for the betterment of humanity, these substances, these naturally occurring substances and chemicals and plants that have been held from people ought to be free. They are plants, they are medicines, they are here to heal. And that is very obvious for anyone who is engaged in a relationship with these plants. So ultimately, that's the goal. The goal is for full blown legalization and the freedom for adult humans to engage with these as they choose, as they please. Then there's the other side of the equation, which is, well, with that legalization, how do you steer the commercialization, which is inevitable, into the best possible place? That's where I'm less of an expert, and that's where the technicality really comes into play. as I've witnessed in the cannabis industry, being in that space, as legalization was really, at least in California, really taking root, I've witnessed a lot of amazing things. I've witnessed a lot more accessibility for people who are genuinely in need of this plant medicine, finally being able to find the healing that they need. But then there's also like a really dangerous arena that comes with the commercialization of anything. So maintaining like grace and class and reverence for these plants in industry, I think is very difficult and going to continue to prove to be very difficult, which is why right now is such a pivotal moment. Stewards of these medicines like you, having beautiful places of honest and candid conversations and information and education are invaluable at this moment in time to help for all of the newcomers, for all of the virgins, the curious, who haven't yet embarked in this space yet, for them to have resources that are authentic. I think there's like a certain level of nervousness that I do have with a future where at the cannabis dispensary, you can also buy your magic mushroom chocolates, and it's, will these plants start to lose their magic? I mean, I don't necessarily think so, but our approach towards them, if it's just like go to the store, buy the thing, and that's that, there is something around the ritual that I hope that we can always hold on to, and of course,
Yes,
honoring the indigenous people that have completely laid the groundwork for our accessibility and even knowledge of these plant medicines is going to be critical. And I have no idea how that will be woven into the grand scheme of things. So I hope it's all for the best. But again, I think that's why growing your own, or always having your guy, knowing the source, the origin of your product is so important always, to have that real relationship with the substance that you're allowing to enter into your body, instead of just like buying shampoo at the store and like whatever. So yeah, I'm very hopeful, but I have my concerns.
that was beautifully put. Thank you for that. And I agree with you. I think the commercialization is a little bit of a scary concept. At the same time, it's not evil. It's not wrong to make money in an industry. We all want to make a career, and that's okay. But doing it with, as you said, some grace, some class, some reverence will be the important thing. And I think one of the things that's a drawback of psychedelics is that the people that do it, like myself, like you, we tend to not be able to shut up about it. And we tend to get a little bit too excited when we're trying to explain it, because we are so excited and the stakes are so high and the insights are so profound. But we need to remember, like, if you sell it too hard, it's kind of like, methinks the lady doth protest too much. And so we need to dial it down a little bit. And I'm guilty of it too. But I think the way you put it, it all boils down to access. Give everybody the option, give them the resources, but access. As long as we have fair access, then it's people can make adult decisions, and then we'll probably be in a good spot. And speaking of adult decisions, your 10,000 foot bird's eye view of your own psychedelic journey. I'm curious, because for me, psilocybin, 5 years of once a month and the microdosing as well has really changed me as a person. And it's also changed me as an entrepreneur. And I'm curious, how have psychedelics impacted your career?
Oh my goddess. Well, firstly, they've literally given me career options. By embracing this culture, I've been able to work within the space. So quite literally, it has become a thread line in my career. But from the more bird's eye view, before I even entered into a working realm, when I was dabbling with psychedelics when I was in college. What? Sorry, Mom. But before I even knew what I was going to do with my life, I think that those psychedelic experiences were extremely pivotal in crafting me to be a person before I entered into the work field with a more open mind and more of an understanding of life beyond, more of an acceptance of this life is play, and I've always been in pursuit of creative opportunities. That is my life's existence. I've never quite worked in an office, so I've been very fortunate to keep that openness and to have an appreciation and an understanding and a willingness to believe in the magic. Some days that's easier than others, of course, but I would also say that most recently working with ayahuasca, that has been, I always go into ceremonies with my Christmas list of like, can this happen and this happen and this happen and this happen and this happen? And can you tell me, should I take this job? What should be my next step? Like, da, 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 da. And she never fails to deliver. Never in the way that you expect or that you desire. It's never like, yes, Brooke, if you just go on LinkedIn tomorrow, there'll be a job opportunity here, and just fill out the resume and that's what you should do next. It's never like that. But more of a reassurance from these medicines that you can move as fast or as slow as you need. Everything is unfolding at its most perfect time. Of course, you should be creating for others. Of course, you should be shining light on things. Of course, you should have the permission slip to pursue what sets your soul, what lights your heart up. And that's something that I have previously struggled with, and really feeling like reassured by these medicines. Of course you should, that like whatever your gift is, fucking share it. So very, very endlessly grateful for these chemicals that have helped to shape me to be the person who I am today. Endlessly grateful for just the clearing that has been done, and the continued relationship with these plants to hopefully clear some more out so that I can show up in whatever I do in the best possible way.
Oh, Brooke, what a beautiful summary of your approach. Thank you for that share. And that permission slip concept is brilliant. And I like what you said about this Christmas list going into ayahuasca, because I found that there's a lot of value in setting intentions. I almost now, even before a bong hit, I'll set an intention. Like, I'm going to be happy, funny, and I'm going to dance like a damn fool. Because you want sometimes to have these specific things. Like, can I get this job? Can I take this? Can I get this salary? Can I get this offer? And I've tried to steer more and more lately towards like a little bit more, giving the universe more leeway to answer it. And for me, it's helped a little bit. For instance, I'll say, can you show me the path? And so I can walk in, instead of like, hey, get me this job and help me sell my company and all these other, show me the path, or help me see the vision. And that's helped. And one of the things that one of the reasons I learned that, Brooke, was because I was trying to game the system. And I'm curious about your transcendent experiences, if we can go even deeper. My experience where I tried to game it was, I realized this experience, Brooke, where you go really deep and you get to the fifth dimension and you see God, or you see your dimensional version of God, or whatever it is, can be so moving and poignant and impactful that it's hard not to want to go back to it. And so I was like, when I was doing these monthly full dose sessions, I was trying to find hacks and things like that, which I probably shouldn't have done. But one of them was, I found that the more you can turn your brain off, the more they'll snatch you and pull you into this fifth dimension and show you all these cool things. But you can't be thinking and thinking and thinking. You also can't be moving physically. And so one of the things I realized was either quiet the mind through meditative breathing, which is kind of hard. The other thing I found is if you're laughing hysterically. And so I was like, got this little hack. These fifth dimension guys, I got this. I'm going to be able to get pulled in, and it's going to be good. And it was almost like the God or the fifth dimension alien or whatever it was, were like, oh, really? You want to laugh? Okay, hold my beer. And so as I got myself laughing, Brooke, I got caught in a infinity laughing fit. And that kind of might sound, hey, that sounds pretty chill. But, and it was fun, but we're talking like 20, 30 minutes of me laughing hysterically. I'm dripping sweat. And then
I was going to say spitting.
There's some meta version of me that was like, okay, this is cool. That was like, abstracted above it and seeing it like, oh, this is cool. Let's dial it down a little bit. We've laughed enough. And I could not. I'm like, oh, okay. So I guess this is the new normal for me, just laughing like an insane person. And obviously I got out of it, but it kind of taught me to stop trying so much on the transcendent experiences. And I'm curious for you, what has been a mystical or transcendent experience that for you still resonates?
Well, firstly, I love that so much. I think that's part of working with these these plants is humbling. Like that is such a big word that comes up, at least for me. And human Ray tried to figure it out. I know the answers. I know more than you know. And these entities that exist in the universe around us, some of them are tricksters. Some of them are like, oh my God, you adorable little human creature. You have no fucking idea. And I'm going to prove a point to you right now. And I think that's that can be scary too, to be in those spaces of like, oh, I'm not in the driver's seat. Okay. The act of surrender is a huge part of my participation with these plants is and when I feel fear, when I feel anger, when I feel any kind of thing out of my control, I have to lean into that even more and just say like, I surrender. Like, I get it. I'm not in charge. Oh my God, please stop. But like particular experiences, man, I've had some crazy shit happen that has really, I would say for me, one of the biggest things is, as human Brooke, I carry around more fear in me than I would like. And almost like, and this is something I continually work on and peel back, but perhaps it's past life trauma, this life trauma. But going into these experiences with any kind of fear, one thing that I would love to encourage people is like, do you actually think that these experiences are going to lead you into fearful places, or are you projecting in this state of consciousness onto something that hasn't happened yet? Are you projecting fear? You're giving, you're carrying around an umbrella when it's not raining, kind of thing. So, and I would like the greatest gift, some of the gifts that I've been given are just being shown the totality of all things. And I think that's what's difficult for the human brain to comprehend, is we view things as good or bad, black or white. And the reality is, when you embark on journeys with plant medicines, you are shown the transcendence beyond the good and bad, the just all that isness, all senses existing at once, all thoughts existing at once. Everything is part of a greater whole. And so, sure, there's a spectrum of light and dark, but humans, we decide if the dark is bad and the light is good. But to the universe, to the unified consciousness, it's neither good nor bad. It just is. And taking those psychedelic learnings into this form, that is what I am always trying to work with is, why do I think something is bad? Is it necessarily bad, or is it just is? It's hard to accept. It's difficult to work with.
One of the things, that concept of there's good and bad, but it's this necessary paradox of existence. And I had a realization where it's almost like everything is good and bad. It just depends on the viewpoint, the dimension, or maybe even time. So if there's something that's bad now, what does that mean? Well, it's a headache, or it's a pain in the ass to take care of now. But guess what? Future you would look back and be like, oh man, yeah, I'm glad I went through that, because I have these skills, I have this experience. So it's both. It's the good and bad, and that transcendent experience that you just so eloquently articulated kind of shows you that.
There's
Go ahead, please.
I wanted to share one story. This actually isn't my story. This is a story a friend shared with me from his DMT experience, but I just think it encapsulates this message so perfectly. He saw a giant goddess, a big, beautiful bodhisattva goddess. And she was holding a flower in one hand and a knife in the other. She opened her palm and showed him the flower, and he was like, wow. And then with the knife, she sliced off someone's head. And he was like, what the fuck are you doing? And she was like, only you think that's bad. I just, like, they're both the exact same thing to me. They both just are in the palm of my hand. That's it.
That's such a good example of why that helps eliminate our struggle with suffering. It's like, no, we need death. We need suffering. That teaches us consequence. That teaches us, suffering teaches us. And to not belabor it, just embrace it. And oh, what a great story. Thank you for that. Brooke, that deep dive was one of my favorites. Thank you for opening up the vault a bit. We've got to switch over to the soul search. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Brooke, what is a lesson that either your mother or your father taught you?
My dad has always taught me, well, to be humble.
I like that a lot. Okay, question number 2. Brooke, you are on a desert island for 10 years, and it's just you, and you only get one mind-altering substance. Who you got?
I think I would say cannabis.
Respect. I can dig that. Okay, so Brooke, who is the one person that has helped your career the most?
I would largely say my fiance. He really encouraged me and always encourages me and supports me with his own creative gifts to do more, do better, focus, commit, and make it the best you can make it.
Oh, that's cool. I bet that would warm his heart to hear that. Okay. Question number 4.
Yeah, if you could just clip that out.
Yeah, let's manage expectations. My girlfriend, relax. Yeah, you've been a little bit of help. Okay, question number 4, Brooke. What is the one question you would ask God?
How would you like me to help you?
Oh, God. Oh, that's good. That's actually one of my favorite answers to that very difficult question. Find you. What would your ask be for the viewers and listeners?
Oh, yes, please. All right. Well, I exist in the digital space, primarily on Instagram. So check me out on Budding Mind, spelled like it sounds. Also, I create a cannabis news show called World of Weed News. So if you're looking to learn more about cannabis, please check us out over there. And for all other things, see you in your dreams.
Brooke, you were a fantastic guest. Thank you for joining the show.
Thank you, Ray.
Okay, producer Kevin, that's all the time we have for today's episode. Thank you to Brooke Burgstahler, producer Kevin. I'm Ray Christian. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, producer Kevin.
What? Can you teach me how to Dougie? You know why? Cause all the bitches love me. All I need is a beat that's super bumpin'. And for you